achieved.
Good Sunday morning, ladies and gentlemen. Well, thank you for tuning in. This is what I like to usually refer to as the Kamikaze Overdrive UFC 156 post-fight podcast. Just for today, I'm renaming it the UFC 156 post-fight shitstorm. Last night's event was a very interesting event, and let's face it, it was the worst prediction-wise, the worst I've done in quite a while. I went 4-7 overall. But there were a number of big upsets last night that a lot of people weren't predicting. Quickly, like I said, I went 4-7 in the public pick section. The public went 3-8 overall. The expert over at Bloody Elbow, who does all the breakdowns, which I always read and thoroughly enjoy, went 3-8 as well. Ez Fidel, one of the new predictors in our prediction panel, went 4-7. And props to Josh Harper. Of all the people I've seen, he went 5-6 overall, so good for him. Again, not a great record, but at least take solace in something, right? If other major predictors out there did well and you want to post their records in the comments, please do, because this was just one of those nights where it seemed like nothing was going according to plan. And I'm going to address the bet packs shortly, but I want to talk about a couple predictions I did get right next. All right, so 2 upsets. I called 4 upsets in total last night. I hit 2 of them. The first one being Damian Maia. I didn't get as much grief about this prediction. I thought I was spot on, and it's short of getting the submission win, like you said, because Fitch is a tough guy to finish. I said Fitch's defensive grappling was not that good, and it turned out to be the case, and Maia took it to him. Some people were on me about the Maia pick, but they have nothing to say after that fight. It was a decisive 3-round dominant victory, and I'll actually get into what I expect Damian Maia to do after this. But very much. That prediction was spot on. Up next, Antonio Bigfoot Silva, and this is the one I'm going to gloat about just a little bit. I have a little more. I'm not going to get too big into it, but I took an absolute ass beating since my prediction video got posted. People were posting nonstop that I'm an idiot and that I don't know what I'm talking about and that my predictions are terrible. And I was getting constant private messages about people just disrespecting me for predicting Bigfoot Silva, and Overeem didn't take it to him in the first 2 rounds, but he was the better fighter. But I said Overeem, like I said, he's not a good fighter if he can't win that fight early. He's 2-3 now, 2-4 in fights that go beyond the second round. He's coming. And I went into all the explanations. He's coming off the long layoff. He hasn't beat anybody that impressively. He traditionally isn't the greatest guy when it comes to taking shots to the chin. And Bigfoot exposed that. And I was pretty excited when it happened because at the time I thought, well, I'm going to have to take all of this abuse when I wake up in the morning from people. And there were some people who at least had the balls to come back and say, you were right. But a lot of people, I'm sure, run and hid and aren't going to, who ran their mouths about my predicting ability when I took Bigfoot over Alistair Overeem, and I'm sure they'll come up with 1,000,001 excuses. But either way, that fight somewhat salvaged my night. Very much enjoyed watching that happen, and it's always nice to see that and have so many people criticize me for it, and me wind up with a win either way. And again, I don't know too many people who pick Bigfoot. Again, if someone another predictor picked Bigfoot to win that fight, by all means, please post that they did. I'd like to see who else was on him instead of just hugging on Overeem's nuts all fight. All right, so those 2 things. Now I want to get into the bet packs next. All right, now I want to talk about the bet packs, and I'm not going to try and say they were a success. I was disappointed with how it turned out, but at the same time, there were a lot of valid points. I'll get into each section and explain, and talk about what we did, because a lot of people bought them. So what I'm going to look at this is the first time I've had a really rough bet pack where it didn't have a lot of profitable aspects of it. So what I'm going to say is this. The next event coming up, let me just quickly check the schedule. The next event coming up is UFC on Fuel TV 7, Barao versus McDonald. If I don't have a good night, and I don't know how many fights are on the card, let's say if there's 12 fights on the card, I have to get at least 8 right. If there's 11 fights on the card, I have to get at least 7. If that's the case, if I don't have that kind of success, then if you buy the bet pack for that, whichever one you buy, I will send you the UFC 157 bet pack 100% free. I'll write everything. That's the Rousey versus Carmouche event. So if you buy the next one, based on my terrible outing this event, if you buy the next bet pack, whatever you buy, I will send you the free one if I don't have an excellent night. And again, like I said, if there's 11 fights, I need to win at least 7. If there's 12 fights, I need to win at least 8. And also, I have to be able to look at the bet pack and say, look, I got multiple confidence picks right, I got multiple value picks, some parlays, some props, and I have to have that success. If I don't have that type of success, you'll be getting the next one free. So please, and again, this was a bad night. You can go back and look at the past records. I've had a lot of good nights. If you're a first-time buyer, do what the people who've been buying for a long time do, and please stick with it. Ride it out. And again, you get nothing to lose. You're either going to win a lot of money next show because I had a good night, or you're going to get a free bet pack the next time. And I can't remember the last time I had 3 really bad showings in a row. It's been, I usually turn it around. I'll have 2 weeks to prepare for this event, so I expect good things. Now, looking at each section, the parlays were absolute shit, and I really need to revamp the way I look at the parlays. The systems aren't working. And even with the rough night I had, let me just go through this. 1, 2, 3... I had at least 3 parlays just off the top of my head where I only had 1 wrong on. So even though I only won 4 fights, I was able to break things down and spread things out and use some props that produced only, some very close parlays. But again, parlays that have 1 wrong mean absolute jack shit. So, I forget it. I'm moving on. Next, the betting breakdowns is where a lot of money is to be had, because I still gave you a lot of good information. You combine this with the rest of it. Let's start off. I had Francisco Rivera. He was my number 3 confidence pick. He came through by TKO. Perfect. Night started off really wonderful. Up next, Chico Camus, Dustin Kimura. I picked Camus, but the way I looked at it, we don't know a lot about these guys. And if you looked at my non-predicted winners list, quickly scrolling down, I had Dustin Kimura number 4 paying $239. Some sites had him higher. I said a small bet was worth it. In fact, I actually put a small bet down on Dustin Kimura and left Chico Camus off altogether, and that was successful. So again, winning advice there, saying roll with the underdog. Up next, Eve Edwards, Isaac Valley Flag. I'm going to talk about the fighters' actual performances one-on-one shortly. But Isaac Valley Flag, again, I took Eve Edwards. I felt he was in my top confidence list. He did not. But again, non-predicted winners list. Isaac Valley Flag paying $290 or better, number 5. I felt he was worth a bet. He had a very aggressive style, and that's what I thought would give him a good chance to win, and it turned out that was the case. Rolling on, Bobby Green, Jacob Volkman, nothing to say here. I had Volkman start to finish. The first round played out exactly the way I expected to, and the rest is history. Bobby Green won that fight. Jay Hiron, Tyrone Woodley. I had Hiron as the underdog. Woodley won it. I actually had Woodley listed in my non-predictors list as another valuable. And I said either play Woodley or play Hiron. I'm on Hiron, but Woodley still had a lot of value. And I said if you want to play Woodley, go ahead and play Woodley. He could, it could work out very well. I said actually play Woodley in the parlays. Make a small single bet on Hiron because he's the dog and has some decent value. Dunham, Tebow, again, nothing to say there. I had Tebow start to finish. I wasn't on Dunham at all, so I lost that one. Benavidez, McCall, same thing. I was on McCall. He was my number 1 value pick. Just didn't have it. Just didn't have the pop or the power that Benavidez had. He had his moments, but Benavidez won that fight. Damian Maia, John Fish, one of my upsets. Don't need to say much there. I picked Maia. I said Maia was going to win this fight. He was an excellent bet at 270 or above, and came through. Same thing, Bigfoot Silva, 450. That's a huge underdog, 450. So hopefully you threw some cash down on Antonio Silva by himself and made yourself a big night. Now, here's one I really like to take a little bit of credit in. Rashad Evans, Antonio Rogerio Nogueira. Rashad Evans was the biggest favorite. Nogueira was over $5 by the time the fight started. I said that I was going to tread very carefully with this fight because Evans didn't have a lot of value. I did use him in a couple of parlays, but basically, if you go to my non-winners confidence list again, Nogueira was my number 1 pick, 445. Said I have Evans in my top 5, but I think his price is way too high. Little Nog's a threat off his back if Evans tries to take him down, which he will, and he has the boxing skills to make him a threat, especially if he can clip Evans like Rampage and Thiago did. Evans didn't fight a very good fight. Antonio Rogerio Nogueira barely did anything to win that fight, but he did. He paid better than $5. Hopefully you made some money off that. So just looking at that, my non-predicted value winners list, number 1, 3, 4, and 5 all came through. So those are guys I hope you made some cash off of. And finally, Jose Aldo, Frankie Edgar, I was banging on. I said Aldo by knockout, but he clearly was the faster fighter for most of it and got the job done. Confidence bet, number 2, Aldo, number 3, Rivera. In my top 5, that's it. Value, obviously, number 3, Maia, number 4, Silva. And I had some decent props. Again, some of the props didn't work out, but I had Dunham, Tebow to go over 2.5, Benavidez, McCall to go over 2.5, and Evans, Nogueira to go over 2.5. I had Aldo by knockout, which was wrong. Overeem Silva under 1.5, which was shocking. And a couple other ones that just didn't work out. So again, not a great bet pack. Generally speaking, it was disappointing for me. I'm right there with you guys. Either way, so again, like I say, If I do not have a good next show and you buy the bet pack to the next show, I will send you the password for UFC 157's bet pack, absolutely free. Whatever it is you buy, you'll be getting the free one the next, or you'll win a lot of money next show, because I'm going to have 2 weeks to put a lot of effort in. Either way, stick with it. That's enough about the bet packs. Certainly disappointed, but I'm hoping at least you can see I probably still, if you did everything I said you should do, you probably still made some money. Let's flip it over to the actual fight breakdowns. All right, so let's actually look at the fights and the predictions and what I think each fighter did well. Francisco Rivera by TKO, that's what I predicted. The night got started off very well. I expected him to be the more technical striker. It proved to be the case. Tense moments early, but Figueroa got the job done. Good for him. Dustin Kimura, Chico Camus. I don't know what Camus was thinking. Clearly the better striker. Continued taking Kimura down, and even when Kimura started threatening off his back, Camus still looked to take him down. At the end of the second round, Kimura almost got him in a submission, and Camus said, well, let's go back to that situation and start the third round, and it caught up with him. It looks good on him. Nice win for Kimura. Isaac Valley Flag, Eve Edwards. I don't understand what people don't, how these guys don't game plan. Valley Flag, all 3 losses by submission. He's had a number of fights where he's had trouble on the ground, and he's an aggressive striker. And instead of Edwards coming out and flashing a couple takedown attempts right off the bat, he stood and tried to counter-strike and allowed that first round to go to Valley Flag because he lacked aggression. As soon as Edwards put him on the back in the second round, that really changed the complexion, at least of that round. Had he done that early, it might have forced Valley Flag to be not nearly as aggressive and given Edwards a chance to set up with his striking. But either way, Valley Flag gets the job done in this scenario. Bobby Green, Jacob Volkman, first round played out exactly like I expected the whole fight to, with Volkman taking him down. But good for Bobby Green, he survived. Started hurting Volkman with his hands and eventually finished him. That's very impressive. That's a big win for Bobby Green. That puts him right, I think, in the top 20 contenders in the UFC. Right at the low end of the top 20, but still huge win. Good for him going forward. Tyrone Woodley, welcome to the UFC. That was significant. He smashed Jay Haran. And basically that was one thing I was afraid of, is he has power. And if he catches Haran, he could have been in trouble, and he caught him. That fight didn't even get a chance to play out at all. I was curious to see how it would work. That's a big win for Woodley, and that puts him right in the mix right off the bat. Gleison Tebow, Evan Dunham. I actually only saw the first round of this fight, which Tebow won. I missed the next 2 rounds. Gleison Tebow, clearly a gatekeeper. Evan Dunham might have something more to offer. I hope he gets a push-up in competition again and see how he fares. I don't know who I'd like to see Evan Dunham up against. Looking quickly at the rankings, maybe Evan Dunham against Khabib Nurmagomedov would be a very interesting fight, or Evan Dunham against Jamie Varner might be worth a look too. That's definitely some interesting matchup. Gleison Tebow, disappointing. The weight cut seems to be hurting him. I don't know what he's going to have to do in the future, but Joseph Benavidez, Ian McCall. Most likely Benavidez fights Demetrius Johnson next. He just was the heavier hitter, landed more. McCall, mentally, I don't know where he's at. Ian McCall versus Chris Carriasso might be a decent fight. I wouldn't mind seeing that. But again, you want to make sure. I think they eventually want to get McCall Demetrius Johnson a rematch, at least for the title. So I think they'll eventually work him back in. I think a fight with Carriasso would be entertaining. John Fitch, Damian Maia. Good for Damian Maia. It's a huge win for him. And he's really got a lot of guys to leap over to get in the title conversation. I think his next fighter he should look to take on is Martin Kampmann. Kampmann's another big name like John Fitch. Very beatable because Kampmann has the propensity to get drawn into whatever his opponent wants him to do, which would be grappling in this case. And if I think Maia beats, has a phantom win over Kim, but a legitimate win over Rick Story, legitimate win over John Fitch, a legitimate win over Martin Kampmann, he could find himself contending in the future. John Fitch, a lot of people overrated his defensive grappling skills. They got exposed here. This is a huge setback for him as far as contending is concerned. I question where he goes from here. Maybe a matchup like, it's tough to say where he's. Maybe Rick Story against John Fitch might be worth looking at. Maybe, I don't know, the loser of Jake Ellenberger. If Jake Ellenberger loses to Johnny Hendricks, maybe that would be a decent matchup. But either way, good for Damian Maia for coming out with that successfully and getting the job done. Alistair Overeem versus Antonio Bigfoot Silva. This is a very interesting one. I said Silva by TKO, took the grief. I already talked about that. He won the fight by TKO. Where do we go from here? Well, if I'm Alistair Overeem, get serious about fighting. If you have any intention of going anywhere in the UFC, get going. Get serious. Get fired up. Let's get, he was clearly not focused. He already thought he had the win in the bag. I would like to see Alistair Overeem against Shane Carwin. I think that'd be a very entertaining scrap. It could wind up with Overeem getting put to sleep again. The big question is, what do you do with Bigfoot Silva? He's now eliminated one of the other top contenders, but lost definitively to the champion, and probably 2 straight wins is not enough to get him a title shot. I think Fabricio Verdum gets the next title shot, or should get the next title shot if he beats Nogueira. The way I'm looking at it with Bigfoot right now, a lot of potential for him. You know, a lot of different guys getting lined up with opponents as they come in. I would like to see Bigfoot Silva. To tell you the truth, this probably won't happen. I'd like to see Bigfoot Silva fight Travis Brown. And the reason I like to see him fight Travis Brown is I think he can still beat him. Go out and legitimize that win. If you can actually beat him again without the knee injury, now you're on a 3-fight winning streak. You've got a significant win over Travis Brown that people can't take away from you, and over him. And then you start looking to build your shot at the title with another, moving up the ladder. Co-main event, Rashad Evans. That was garbage. Fought terribly. I don't know what he was thinking. People comparing it to what Clay Guida fights. Hardly any attempts to getting the fight to the ground. Nogueira has excellent takedown defense. But again, Nogueira shouldn't be given that much credit. He didn't do that much himself either. And Joe was all over silly-looking kicks. But either way, not impressed with that fight. It was a sleeper. Really did not enjoy it. Had Evans won, I'd be 5-6 and had a decent night. But I told you, Nogueira had a great chance, and the value he was paying out at, he was worth a bet. So hopefully he made some cash off that. For Rashad Evans, I think he should drop to middleweight. He won't get an immediate title shot against Anderson Silva, which he shouldn't offer a performance like that. I think he should drop to middleweight. I think there's a ton of good matchups for him. And I think if he could put together a couple of wins, maybe Rashad Evans versus a guy like Alan Belcher or Yushin Okami. I know these guys already have fights scheduled coming up. But get in there, pick up a couple of wins at middleweight, and then maybe get a title shot. I think legitimately, 1 win at middleweight could get him either a number 1 contender shot or a shot at the title coming off this poor performance. For Nogueira, I wasn't blown away, but a win is a win, and that's what the important thing is. I'm not 100% sure what we do with him either. Maybe, I don't know, I can't remember off the top of my head. I don't think him and Glover Teixeira are in the same camp. They might be, I'm not 100% sure there. If they aren't, Teixeira versus Nogueira would be a fantastic fight, especially to take place in Brazil. If not, it's tough. There's a lot. People are already matched up with so many people right now. Fights are already straightened out, so we'll have to see where we go from there, but obviously my prediction was wrong. I said Evans by decision. A lot of people thought Evans was going to knock him out. I didn't think that was going to happen whatsoever. Finally, Jose Aldo, Frankie Edgar. I thought the speed would be an issue, and you could see Frankie Edgar wasn't nearly as effective until Aldo started slowing down. And at that point, Aldo had the fight in the bag unless Edgar stopped him, and he doesn't have the power. Good for Aldo. I've heard rumors about him fighting Anthony Pettis. I don't know if that means Pettis is coming down to challenge for the title. I think that would be a fantastic fight, and that would certainly be one to put a headline a Fox event. But could also do good pay-per-view numbers. For Frankie Edgar, a lot of people are wondering where he goes from here. A couple of options. I don't think he should stay at 145. I think it's a great fight division for him. But he's not going to get a shot at the title. If I'm Frankie Edgar, wait and see what Aldo does. If Aldo decides to go to 155, then stick around and contend and potentially win a title. If not, go back to 155. 155 is really building up to be a very interesting division with some of these Strikeforce guys coming over. A couple wins and he could find himself in a title shot. Another interesting scenario, obviously, is the other direction. Could he go to 135 and compete? I think he could if he could make his intent. It's tough to give a guy another title shot coming off 3 straight losses. But I could see, especially if Cruz is out for so long, they're going to be desperate for guys to fight the winner of Brown McDonald at 135. And if Frankie Edgar fits that role, that would be fantastic. And in that division, I think his size will finally start to have an impact over guys that are smaller than him. Shows the fight breakdowns. Again, 4-7 prediction-wise. I certainly intend to come back and do better next time, and let's just wrap this show up. So that's my post-fight analysis for UFC 156. I'm a little bit under the weather, so you can probably hear it in my voice and other sounds that are coming out during the show. Not a great night of predictions. 4-7. Most people took it on the chin. Again, as I said, for the next bet pack, if you buy the next bet pack and I go prediction-wise, I go, let's see, I got to win at least 8 of 12 or 7 of 11 and have a decent confidence list and decent value bets, etc. go on. You know what I mean? It just has to be a profitable night. If it's not, and you buy whatever bet pack you buy for that event, I will send you the next one, which is UFC 157, 100% free. So it's a win-win. Either you're getting a whole pile of cash headed your way from a profitable night, or number 2 is you're getting a free bet pack down the road. So please take a look into that, and we'll see what we can do from there. Today's actually the Super Bowl. If you want my insight, I'm taking San Francisco minus 3.5 and the under 48. I'm thinking somewhere in the range of 24-17 San Francisco, maybe 24-14. Both defenses will get the job done, but there will be some points scored, just not covering the total. I think the total is a little bit lower than most expected to, and they're going to bet it up and go over top of the 48. And there's going to be a lot of money made by the books on that basis. So play the under. If you're going to play anything, that's my strong play, is play the under. So thank you for listening, as always. And not a great night of predictions. Hopefully we'll rebound with the next show. Kamikaze Overdrive MMA predictions.